The room was silent, unnaturally so. The only sound was the beeping of the fetal monitor and the labored breathing of Emma, who had been in labor for 27 hours. Nurses moved efficiently but nervously, sensing something unusual. The doctor furrowed his brows as he checked the screen again, then looked at Emma's husband, Daniel. He was pale, gripping Emma's hand like he was clinging to life itself. "Push, Emma, just one more," the doctor said, and with a scream that tore through the sterile room, the baby arrived. But no one cheered. No one clapped. Not even the cry of the newborn broke the silence immediately. Instead, a collective gasp, sharp, short, terrified. The baby was perfect. Except for one thing. Her tiny face was split down the middle by two different skin tones. One half was a warm, deep brown. The other was ivory pale. It was like someone had painted her face in two shades. Natural. Real. Impossible. Emma opened her eyes, tears falling instantly. Not from pain, but from something deeper. She saw her baby and turned away, sobbing. "Give her to me," Daniel whispered. The nurse hesitated. "Give me my daughter," he barked, voice cracking. They wrapped the baby in a pink blanket and placed her in his arms. He stared. Mouth open. Breath halted. The child blinked. One eye was green. The other was grey. Daniel looked at Emma. "What is this?" he asked, trembling. Emma didn't answer. She couldn't. The nurse gently took the baby back and moved toward the incubator. "Is she healthy?" Daniel asked. "Everything looks normal. She's breathing fine, no heart issues. She's just visually different," the nurse said. The doctor didn't speak. He stared at Emma, who was now curled on her side, shaking. "Emma, do you know what this is?" he asked quietly. Emma didn't respond. Her tears said everything and nothing. Daniel's head spun. Cameras were not allowed in the delivery room, but he imagined if they were, if someone had captured this moment, it would be the kind of image that ended up on the front page of every newspaper in the world. "Does this happen? This half-face thing?" Daniel asked. The doctor shook his head. "Not naturally, it's extremely rare. Chimerism is a possibility, when two embryos fuse in the womb. But even that wouldn't explain the clear symmetry." "You mean she's two people?" "Not exactly. And it wouldn't explain the eye colors. It's like—" He paused. "Like what?" "Like she's carrying two genetic codes, with two fathers." The word hung in the air like smoke. Daniel turned slowly to his wife. "Emma," he said, voice hollow. "Emma, is there something I need to know?" Emma was silent. The nurse returned with the baby, now sleeping peacefully. "We'll take her to the nursery for monitoring," she said. Daniel watched them leave. His knees nearly gave out. He sat in the hospital chair and stared at the wall. Hours passed. Emma didn't speak. Daniel didn't sleep. Morning came. The baby had a name, Aria. But no one called her that, not yet. The whispers started in the hallway, nurses exchanging glances. A pediatrician asking for additional genetic testing. Someone from the hospital administration came in, just to check on things. The atmosphere around their room had changed. It wasn't joy, it was mystery. A child born with two faces. Not literally, but visually so, like a secret had materialized into skin. Daniel held Aria again, this time with trembling hands. She looked up at him, eyes mismatched, skin perfectly divided. "You're beautiful," he whispered. "But who are you?" Emma finally spoke that afternoon, quietly. "I need to tell you something." Daniel turned to her instantly. "Is she mine?" "She's ours," she said. "Emma, don't lie to me." "I'm not, I swear, I didn't think it would show." "Didn't think what would show?" "The past," she whispered. And with that she closed her eyes again. Daniel felt rage rising in his chest, but also fear. He didn't understand. He wanted to. But he didn't. The next day, the genetic test was ordered. The doctor said it was routine, but everyone knew it wasn't. Emma signed the form without protest. Daniel didn't. He stared at the paper like it was a bomb. He didn't want to know, not really, but he had to. And when the nurse left, he turned back to Emma. We had therapy. We talked about trust. You said everything from your past was over. It was, she said. Then explain this. I can't. Not now. Then when? He asked. When she's old enough to ask? Emma burst into tears. I didn't know this could happen. I didn't know it would ever come back. What came back? Daniel shouted. Tell me what the hell is going on. Emma looked him in the eyes. I made a decision before I met you, a decision that I thought would stay buried, but life doesn't work like that. Daniel's mouth opened, but no words came out. Before I met you, I tried to get pregnant. I wanted to be a mother. I was alone. I went to a clinic, an anonymous donor. It didn't work. They said it failed. I moved on. I met you. Then one day I found out I was pregnant. I thought it was yours. Daniel backed away from the bed. You used a donor? Before you, I didn't even remember the dates. The timelines overlapped. You thought you'd keep it secret forever. I thought it didn't matter. Until she was born, until I saw her face. Daniel looked down at Aria. 2 colors, 2 eyes, 2 truths, 1 child. He walked out of the room, out of the hospital, into the street. And for the first time in his life, Daniel cried. The press had caught wind of the story. A nurse posted a vague comment on social media. Baby born with face of 2 worlds. It went viral. The hospital denied everything, but rumors swirled. Genetic miracle, medical anomaly, or hidden scandal. Emma sat in silence. Aria was brought in every few hours to feed, to bond. Emma looked at her, unsure. Could she raise a child who was part her and part mystery? Daniel didn't return that night, nor the next. On the 3rd day, a woman came to the hospital, late 40s, sharp suit, nervous eyes. I need to speak with Emma, she said, about the donor from 2016. Emma froze. Her world was about to collapse. Again. The woman's name was Dr. Celia Harron. She worked in the Administrative Archive Division of the fertility clinic Emma had used nearly 7 years ago. She carried a thin folder pressed tightly to her chest, as if guarding a bomb. Her voice trembled when she spoke. Emma, I shouldn't be here. I'm violating protocol. But something happened the night your daughter was born, and I couldn't sleep. I had to come. Emma sat frozen, her hands clenched on her hospital blanket. You're from Genesis Reproductive Center, she said flatly. Yes. Why now? Celia opened the folder. Because someone sent an alert to our system. When the genetic scan of your daughter was uploaded to the National Research Database, her DNA flagged something unusual. You're saying Aria's DNA matches your records? Partially, that's the issue. Your daughter's genetics are a fusion of 2 donors, your egg and 2 different paternal lineages. One was expected your husband. The other, Keynes, was from our database. Emma's world spun again. That's impossible. The embryo transfer didn't work. That's what your clinic told me. You said the cycle failed. Celia nodded slowly. It did. Fail, at least we thought it had, but Emma, sometimes biology has other plans. Sometimes embryos implant late, and sometimes, she lowered her voice, sometimes they implant alongside another. You're saying Aria is a twin? She was. Emma couldn't breathe. But where's the other baby? There isn't one. Somehow during your pregnancy, 2 embryos, one fertilized by your husband, the other by the anonymous donor, merged. It's called tetragametic chimerism. Your daughter absorbed the other embryo. Emma felt dizzy. You knew this? We suspected. We've seen this once before. But not like this. Never with facial symmetry that... Clear. Emma stood up, nearly falling. Why did you come here? Because you need to know who the donor was. I signed a form. I was told it was anonymous. It was, but he came back 3 years ago, asked for access to any resulting offspring, said it was for medical reasons. We didn't grant it. But he filed an appeal, left us his contact. When I saw Aria's scan, I knew. Knew what? That he was still watching, that maybe he knew something we didn't. Emma's chest felt tight. Who is he? Celia handed her a photo. A man in his late 30s, sharp jaw, familiar eyes, green and grey. His name is Nathan Callum. He's a geneticist. He used his own sperm for a batch of test donations. During a trial in 2016, we thought the samples were discarded. Apparently one wasn't. Emma collapsed onto the bed. Arya stirred in the clear crib beside her, letting out a soft whimper. Celia stood. You should know. He's been trying to reach out. He might try again. Emma nodded, numb. Does Daniel know any of this? No, but he will. Celia left the room, glancing over her shoulder one last time. The hallway outside was already buzzing. Emma could hear nurses talking. Did you see the baby? It's not paint, it's real. They say it's a mutation or maybe a sign. Arya had become a myth inside the hospital. Some called her an angel, others whispered words like miracle, omen, curse. Daniel returned that evening. He hadn't slept, he hadn't eaten. He sat beside the crib and stared at Arya, her face glowing softly under the low hospital light. She's been in the news, he said. Someone leaked it, they blurred her face, but people already suspect. Emma nodded. I didn't leak it. I know. Daniel. Don't. Not yet. I need to process. He took out his phone and played a short clip. A nurse had filmed from behind a curtain, Arya yawning, her face lit up on screen. It had already been shared thousands of times. They think she's holy or haunted. She's just a baby. Not to them. Emma touched his hand. Someone came to see me today. Who? A woman from the clinic. She said, Arya is a chimera. 2 embryos fused. Daniel's face didn't move. And one of them was from the donor, the one I used before you. He looked at her now. Really looked. So I'm not her father. You are. One half of her is yours. And the other half? Nathan Callum. Daniel stood. I don't care about his name. He might come looking for her. He won't find her. I won't let him. Daniel, do you love her? He asked. More than anything. Then we protect her. Together. Emma cried. She hadn't expected that. Not from the man who had stormed out 3 nights ago. But people will talk, he continued. They already are. She'll grow up with questions. We'll answer them when she's ready. The door opened. A nurse entered, holding a letter. This was dropped off at the front desk. No sender. Daniel took it, opened it, read. His hands began to tremble. Emma watched his face shift from confusion to fury. What is it? She asked. He passed it to her. A single sentence, handwritten. I know what Arya is. You can't hide her forever. Emma's hands shook. The bottom of the page had a faint watermark, a double helix, and one word, genius. It's him, Emma whispered. Nathan. Daniel crushed the letter in his fist. Then let him. Come, I'll be ready. That night Emma couldn't sleep. Neither could Daniel. They lay beside each other, hands touching but hearts full of dread. In the hallway, a janitor paused by Arya's photo on the staff bulletin board. He looked at the split-toned face. Never seen anything like it, he whispered. His colleague nodded. They say she sees both heaven and hell. Outside the hospital, a man in a black coat sat in a car, engine off, watching the maternity wing. His fingers tapped the steering wheel. On the seat beside him was a printed image of Arya's hospital band, and beneath it, a genetic sequence code. He smiled. You're finally here. The next morning, Emma was awakened by soft knocking on the hospital room door. She blinked against the sunlight pouring through the window and instinctively turned toward the bassinet. Arya was still there, still sleeping, her tiny chest rising and falling in a slow rhythm, half her face bathed in shadow, half in light. Come in, Emma said cautiously. A nurse stepped inside, older, with gentle eyes and a hesitant smile. Hi, I'm Nurse Maribel. I just switched shifts. I was assigned to Arya's care today. Emma nodded, watching her movements carefully. Is something wrong? No, she replied. Actually, I asked for this assignment. Emma sat up straighter. Why? Maribel looked around, then slowly closed the door behind her. Because I've seen this before. Once. A long time ago. Emma's breath caught. You've seen a child like her. No, not a child, a woman. She came in 20 years ago, unconscious after an accident. They had to run blood work to find her blood type. What came back shocked everyone. Her blood had 2 different DNA profiles, 2 sets of cells, from 2 different people, and yet she was one person. She was a chimera? Yes, and she never knew. The only reason we found out was because of the trauma. But once it was revealed, she said something that stuck with me. Emma leaned forward. What did she say? She said, I always felt like I was carrying someone else's life. Emma's eyes filled. Maribel continued, Emma, has anyone asked you if you did a pre-implantation genetic screening back then? Emma blinked. You mean PGD? No. I couldn't afford the extra tests. I just trusted the clinic. Then you never saw the donor's full background? No, why? Maribel hesitated, then stepped closer. Because if this is who I think it is, your donor has a history, a reputation. He wasn't just a scientist, he was a designer, one of the first. Emma whispered, What do you mean, designer? He worked on synthetic genome matching, trying to create superior offspring, ethically controversial, shut down after a few lawsuits. But if his samples got out, she trailed off. Emma looked toward Arya, now stretching her tiny fingers. You think he engineered her? No, but he may have prepared for something like this. That's insane. So is her face. Emma was shaking. She whispered, She's not a project. She's my daughter. I know, Maribel said gently, but someone out there might not see it that way. Emma covered her face. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't believe this was her life. That afternoon, Daniel returned with a laptop in hand. We have a problem, he said. He posted something. Who? Nathan, he has a blog. It's anonymous, but I found it. Or at least, I think it's him. He turned the screen toward her. The page read, To the parents of the child born in St. Agnes Hospital, I know what you're hiding, I know what she is, and I will prove it. Below the post was a high-resolution photo of Arya, zoomed in, edited to enhance the contrast between her 2 skin tones. Someone had taken it from inside the hospital. It's him, Emma said. He's already here. Daniel scrolled down. More posts, scientific notes, genetic data, theories about hybridization, and one final post dated that same morning. Project Genesis is alive and walking among us. Emma stood up, shaking. He thinks she's a project. He's trying to claim her. Not if I stop him, Daniel said. I've already spoken to a lawyer. And what are we going to say? That our daughter is part him? No, he said firmly. We're going to say that she is a child. Not a symbol, not a theory, not an experiment. A human child, with rights, with parents, with love. Emma felt something break inside her, something tight that had been holding her hostage. She broke down in his arms. I don't know how to protect her, she whispered. You just did, he said, by never walking away. That night a different kind of visitor came. A woman in a lab coat, private security by her side. She knocked softly, then entered without waiting for permission. Emma Jones, she asked. Yes. My name is Dr. Renata Vale. I work for the Federal Medical Oversight Board. We're investigating a potential breach in embryonic containment protocols. What does that mean? Daniel asked. It means someone used unauthorized material, and we believe your daughter may have been the result. She's not a mistake, Emma said sharply. We don't believe she is, but we need to trace her lineage. We have records from 2016. We'd like to run a second test to verify if she shares markers with our flagged database. And if she does, Daniel asked, then we'll need to classify her status. Status? Under federal law, any individual created through illegal genetic engineering may fall under investigative protection, meaning custody may temporarily shift. You're trying to take her, Daniel shouted. We're trying to prevent a scandal that could change the course of medical ethics for the next 50 years, Dr. Vale said coldly. This is bigger than you. Emma stood, her voice fierce. No, it's not. It's exactly about us. A child, a mother, a father, a family. Nothing is bigger than that. Silence fell. Even Dr. Vale blinked. You have 72 hours to comply with the genetic audit, she said, or we will obtain a court order. She left. Daniel punched the wall. Emma picked up Arya and held her close. We're not losing you, she whispered. Never. That night, Emma had a dream. Arya was older, maybe 6. Running through a field, her two-toned face glowing in the sunlight. People pointed, some smiled, others frowned, but Arya kept running, kept laughing, kept being. Emma woke in tears. At dawn, she walked into the neonatal unit. Maribel was there, feeding Arya. May I? Emma asked. Maribel nodded and gently handed her over. As Emma held her daughter, something shifted. Not in the child, in herself. The fear quieted, the confusion dimmed. Only one thing remained. Love. Fierce. Unstoppable. She kissed Arya's forehead and whispered a promise. No matter what they say, I will never let them turn you into a secret. You are not an error. You are not a lie. You are the beginning of everything. Everything. 3 hours after the federal agent left, Emma received an email from a blocked sender. The subject line read, You deserve to know what they did. Attached was a single video file. No explanation, no message, just a timestamp. April 14th, 2016. Emma hesitated. Her finger hovered over the play button. Daniel walked in. What's that? A video. From someone who wants me to know something. It could be a trap, or it could be the truth. She clicked play. The screen filled with grainy security footage, an old lab, shelves lined with vials, a fluorescent light flickering. A man entered the frame, tall, sharp features, hair tied back, a clipboard in hand. Nathan, Emma whispered. The video showed him pacing, talking to someone off camera. Then he turned toward the lens and spoke, unaware it was recording. This will work. I've corrected the flaws. The double-strand break repairs. The methylation stability, it's ready. A voice off camera asked, You're going to submit the samples? Already did, under alias. They'll be in the next round of trials. The egg banks will never trace it. This time they won't. Throw it out. What happens if someone gets pregnant? Then the child will be the first, a perfect integration. The proof that nature can be guided. Emma paused the video. Her stomach turned. He planned it, she said. He wanted this to happen. Daniel sat beside her. And now he thinks Arya is his success story. She's not his anything, Emma said coldly. They watched. The rest of the footage. Nathan labeled vials, logged fake donor IDs, printed forged documentation. It was meticulous, chilling, and real. We have to show this to the board, Daniel said. This proves she's the result of a crime. No, Emma said. This proves he committed a crime, not her. She didn't ask to be created. She's innocent. But if they classify her as engineered, then I'll fight them. With this. Emma copied the video onto 3 separate USBs and hid each in different places. That night she called her sister, Rachel, a lawyer in Boston, explained everything, cried through most of it. Rachel was silent on the line for a long time, then said, I'm coming down. We're going to fix this. By the next morning, Rachel was at the hospital, with a plan. We file an emergency. Injunction. We block the audit. We force them to see her as a legal human child, not a product. Will that work? Daniel asked. If the judge is human, it will. But just as they were preparing the paperwork, the hospital received a visit. Nathan in person. He walked into the lobby like he belonged there. Black suit, calm smile, ID badge from a fake research group. I'm here to check on the newborn under observation, genetic division. The receptionist looked him over, suspicious. Name? Dr. Peter Langston. I don't have you on the list. You do now. He handed her a forged document. At that moment, Rachel walked past and froze. That's him, she said to Emma. That's Nathan. Emma stood slowly. "I want to see him." "No, Emma." "I have to." She walked into the lobby, stared at the man who had upended her entire life. "You used me," she said. Nathan turned, his eyes lit up. "Emma, I was hoping we'd meet. Congratulations. You lied. You broke the law. I changed the world. You tampered with life. With my body, with my child." "No," he said calmly. "I improved her odds. She is not your experiment. She is evolution." Emma slapped him. The sound echoed. Everyone turned. The receptionist stood frozen. Security arrived. "Is there a problem, sir?" Nathan smiled. "No, I was just leaving." And he did, calmly, as if nothing had happened. But Rachel had recorded everything: his voice, his words, his face. That night, Daniel sat by Aria's crib. "She's going to grow up one day," he whispered, "and she'll ask why her face looks different. What are we going to tell her?" Emma sat beside him. "The truth, but only the truth that matters, that she was born of love, that she is unique, that the world wasn't ready, but we were." The next day they went to court. It was a small room, no media, no noise, just a judge, a federal representative, Emma, Daniel, and Rachel. The agent presented her case, showed documents, accused. The clinic described Aria as a hybrid anomaly created by rogue manipulation. Then Rachel stood, calm, measured, brilliant. "Your Honor, my niece is not a theory. She is a citizen, a baby, not a sequence of numbers. We don't punish children for the crimes of their genetic contributors, and we certainly don't erase their rights." The judge listened, asked questions, reviewed the footage. Then he turned to Emma. "Mrs. Jones, do you understand the implications of raising a child who may become the center of international controversy?" Emma looked at Aria, asleep in her arms. "Yes, Your Honor, I understand. But I also understand something else, that this child has already survived more than most people do in a lifetime, and that makes her strong, and worthy, and mine." The judge nodded. Silence filled the room. Then finally, "This court recognizes the full human rights of Aria Jones. She is to remain in the custody of her parents. No further federal interference permitted unless new evidence of criminal endangerment arises. Case closed." Emma cried. Daniel squeezed her hand. Rachel smiled. It was over. For now. Outside the courthouse, reporters waited. Somehow the story had leaked again. Flashbulbs, microphones, questions. Is it true she was genetically altered? Is she part of an experiment? Is she dangerous? Emma held Aria tight, then stepped forward. "She is love," she said. "She is light. And you'll all remember her name." And then she walked away, head high, her child in her arms. The whispers would continue, the rumors, the fascination. But Emma knew something now. Aria's face was not a flaw. It was a story, a truth, a beginning. Years passed. The world moved on but never fully forgot. The story of the girl with the divided face had made waves in medical journals, podcasts, and even documentaries. They called her the child of two suns. Scientists debated her biology. Ethicists debated her right to anonymity. But Emma and Daniel shielded her from it all. They moved to a quiet town upstate, changed their last names, and raised Aria like any other child. Well, almost, because Aria was never like any other child. At 4, she asked, "Why do people stare at me?" Emma knelt and answered, "Because you're beautiful in a way they don't understand yet." At 6, a boy at the park asked, "Are you painted?" Aria simply smiled and said, "Aren't we all?" At 8, she saw the old documentary playing at her school library. Her own newborn face flashed on the screen. "This child may be the future of humanity," the narrator said. She walked out of the library in silence. That night she asked her parents, "Who am I really?" Daniel and Emma looked at each other. Then they told her everything. The clinic, the donor, the court case, the face that changed their lives. Aria listened without blinking. At the end, she said, "So I'm made of 2 stories." Emma nodded. "Yes, Arya smiled. Then I'll write a new one. At 12, she began speaking publicly, not in protests or interviews, in classrooms, in youth centers, to children who felt different, who felt like questions with no answers. I was born with two colors on my face, she would say, and for a long time people thought that made me broken, but it doesn't. It makes me whole in a way that's just different. Her words went viral again, but this time not because of shock, because of hope. The world leaned in, not to dissect her, but to listen. Nathan resurfaced. An older man now. He wrote a book, The Fusion Generation, claimed Arya as the proof of concept, asked her for a meeting. She declined. Then, a year later, sent him a letter, short, clear, powerful. You may have contributed to my biology, but I created my identity, and you have no authorship over that. Emma framed the letter and hung it in the hallway. At 16, Arya testified at a global bioethics summit. She stood on a stage before thousands. She wore a white dress that gently exposed her face in full light, half golden, half pale, eyes of different shades, and she said, I was born with a secret on my skin. But that secret doesn't define me. I define me. I'm not an error. I'm not a miracle. I'm just a girl who learned how to turn silence into voice. The audience wept. Emma watched from the front row, Daniel's hand in hers, their hearts so full it hurt. That night Arya came home and sat by the fireplace. Do you think the world sees me now? She asked. Emma kissed her forehead. The world always saw you. But now it finally understands what it sees, Daniel added. And we've always known from the second you arrived. The moment the room went silent, Emma whispered. And the moment you opened your mismatched eyes, Daniel said, you made everything make sense. Arya was quiet. Then, I want to find others like me. There may not be others, Emma said. Then I'll be the first, and I'll make sure there are more voices after mine. She kept her promise. At 19, she founded the Foundation of Dual Truths, supporting individuals with rare genetic conditions, mixed heritages, and untold origins. At 22, she returned to the hospital where she was born. She walked the hallway with Nurse Maribel, now retired. They stood in front of the room where it all began. It's smaller than I imagined, Arya said, but it held the biggest moment of your life, Maribel smiled. Do you remember it? No, but I remember everything they told me, and I carry it like a second heartbeat. She stepped inside the room, empty, clean, silent, and she whispered to the space, Thank you. Then she walked out. That same year, a journalist interviewed her for a feature titled The Face That Changed Everything. He asked her, if you could be born all over again, would you want to be different? Arya looked at him, smiled gently, and said, I would only want one thing different, that people didn't need someone like me to understand that every child, no matter how strange they appear, is already whole. The piece went viral. Again. But this time the world didn't gasp. It applauded. At 25, Arya stood in a garden, flowers blooming behind her, a small child in her arms. Her daughter, her own. Her face a single tone, but her eyes green and grey. And Arya smiled. Let me tell you a story, she whispered to the baby, about a girl who was born with two colours and found out that love has no shade. And far away, Emma and Daniel watched through a window, tears in their eyes, knowing the story that began with fear had ended in legacy. And Arya, the child of two worlds, had finally become her own universe.